In the last chapter, we talked about the formal structure of an organisation, how the organisation is put together on a piece of paper, setting out who does what, who do they report to. Organisational culture is the informal organisation. It's what actually happens inside an organisation. Now, organisational culture, the way we do things around here. Now, as an example of this, when I originally started work, I was not an accountant. I worked as a school teacher, and I actually worked as a school teacher, excuse me, teaching 10-year-olds. Now, that's got a very particular way of working. You are basically left entirely or pretty much on your own. You close the door, there's you and the 30 11-year-olds and 10-year-olds, and you basically do whatever you want. So I was in charge of running that classroom, and I did that for about 3 years. I then trained with KPMG, so I decided I didn't want to be a teacher, I wanted to be an accountant. Don't ask me why. So I trained with KPMG, completely different kind of culture. Because KPMG was all about, here is the KPMG way that you will do things. And you will write things down in this way, and you'll explain things in this way. One of the things, for example, that we did at KPMG when I was there, I was not allowed to send a letter to anybody unless it had been checked by a manager. That's just the way that things were done. Now, there were obvious ways why they were done like that, and I can understand them. We'll talk about those in a minute. But the hardest thing that I found, going from being a school teacher to working at KPMG, it wasn't the work. I mean, being an auditor was okay. It was the culture. It was going from I'm the boss to I have to ask everybody and get everything double-checked. And I found that really, really difficult. Now, working as a lecturer, I've now gone back, in effect, to being a school teacher because I do this the way that I want to. It's a different culture again. If I went back again to KPMG, I would find it incredibly difficult. Similarly, if somebody left KPMG and came straight here, and I simply said to them, right, there's the notes, get on and do whatever you like, they would find that very difficult. It's a very different way of working. So culture is the way that we do things. As an accountant, you may well find during your career that you work in different finance departments. You may even be doing the same tasks, but the way that the organisation operates will be very different. Is it like a school, which in a way is very laid back, you do your own thing? Is it like KPMG, which is very formal? There's nothing wrong with either of them, they're just different, and it makes it difficult to move. So, when we're talking about the way we do things, we're talking about things like values. What's important? As a school teacher, the most important thing is educating the students. Doesn't really matter how you do it. Attitudes. For example, are we going to talk about trying new ideas? Let's see if this works. Let's see if that works. KPMG, I don't think so. You do it the way you're told. Norms and expectations, to a certain extent, are the same thing. What is expected of you? Now, for example, when I am teaching, when I was teaching in a school, I would always wear a shirt and a tie because being a school teacher, I felt I ought to. But I wouldn't wear a suit, so I'd have a shirt and tie and I'd have a pair of trousers. As a lecturer, I always wear a suit. And the reason why I wear a suit is I'm a professional and I am instilling in my students the fact that I am a professional. I feel I ought to wear a suit to present the right image. It does not say anywhere in my contract that I have to wear a suit. I could wear a pair of jeans and a T-shirt if I wanted to. There's nothing to stop me except the culture of the organisation is you should look professional. The key thing is it's leaving it up to the person. At KPMG, they had a dress code. So there was no choice. You had to wear certain things. And it was actually a disciplinary offence if you didn't. So, for example, when I was there, you had to wear, as men, you had to wear a white shirt or a blue shirt. You weren't allowed anything else. It was one of my colleagues who had an air stud, and he was allowed to wear it in the office, but he wasn't allowed to wear it out to a client. Now, I am talking 20 years ago, but those were the rules. Those were the norms and the expectations. The thing was that they told you what they were going to be, and you had to follow them. In our college, there aren't any rules, but people do tend to follow the same things anyway. As I say, most people will wear a suit because it's expected. So, factors that make a difference to your organisational culture. Small company or large company? Small companies tend to be much more informal. Do whatever you think's best. One of the reasons why KPMG have so many rules, understandably, is because they're a multinational organisation. You can't have people going around doing whatever they want to on an audit. It just wouldn't make any sense. So, the size, the amount of technology might make a difference to your culture. Often, if you don't have a lot of technology, you are perhaps left more to do what you want to. So, the only technology I really have here is a laptop, but I can use it in whatever way I want. If I have to use a lot of technology, it will force me to do things in a certain way. History. Is it an old company or is it young? Again, younger companies tend to be more flexible about what they will let people do. Older companies, ones that have been around for a while, tend to be very much more, it's always been done this way. Who owns it? Is it a PLC owned by lots of shareholders? Is it a small family company? Again, it will make differences to the way that things are done. We've got things like diversity and age. Diversity, do you have lots of different kinds of people there? Or is everybody very much the same? If everybody's very much the same, the culture will become, we do it the way that we're all happy with. Diversity, you'll have a much bigger variety. The structure will make a difference. Is it flat or is it tall? From the last chapter, flat organisations, more flexibility. You get on and do whatever you think's best. Tall organisations, I can manage more. I can manage only 3 people. I'm going to supervise them very closely. You will do what I say. Now, again, the thing with all of these is there is nothing wrong with any kind of cultures. The only thing you have to think about is the culture appropriate to the particular company? That's the key thing. So, it says here, the link between leadership and culture. Whoever starts an organisation creates the culture. If you have a company that's started by 3 engineers, you will tend to get lots of precision. You'll tend to get lots of rules. You'll tend to get lots of procedures because that's the sort of thing that engineers would want. If I've offended any engineers, I do apologise. On the other hand, if a company started by some lecturers, it will probably tend to be relatively informal because that's the kind of personalities that lecturers tend to have. So one of the things that Shine says is the first people are very, very important. And of course, the thing with culture is that as you employ more people, you tend to employ people who will fit in with the culture. If they don't fit in, you don't want them in the first place. Or if you do employ them by mistake, they will find out if they don't like it and they'll leave. So you end up with lots of people in the organisation who all do things in the same way. And what Shine is saying is people who come after the first people have got to understand that. So they're going to come into an organisation where things are done in a certain way and it's difficult to change. Now, certain things make a difference as far as Shine is concerned. Artefacts, and that simply means things like displays. All that means is things such as, do we have an Employee of the Month scheme? And if so, what do we use to judge it? That will have something to do with the culture. This person is the best employee because they have sold the most. They have given the best customer service. Those two, different rules for giving the Employee of the Month, different kinds of cultures. First one, the culture will be sell, sell, sell. Second one, the culture will be look after the customer. Different customers. Espoused values. What that means is, what do we tell our customers? If we tell our customers something, it tends to mean that we have to deliver that. So if we promise the customer something, the culture will become, how do we deliver that? So if we say to the customer, come to us because you can get a basic product very cheaply and easily, the culture is deliver a cheap, easy product. If the customer is being told, come to us because we'll give you lots of helpful advice, then that's what the culture should be. Spending time with customers, even if they don't buy anything. So the espoused values. And the final one we've got there, what's called the basic assumptions. What do people actually believe in? Do we really believe that the customer is always right, or is that just something we say? Do we believe that we've actually got a good product, or are we just trying to sell things to customers that we don't believe in? Now, the last one is the most important one that's there. It's the most difficult to identify. So these are the kind of things that make up the culture of an organisation.